Welcome, everyone. We're absolutely delighted to have two amazing leaders with us today. Maurice Jones, CEO of OneTen, and Donna Brazile. If you have a television, you see her almost every other week. Last I saw her was on Bill Maher, and I think she's in the middle of completing her classes at Georgetown and Harvard University. So, welcome to both of you. So, Maurice, let's start with you. Share with us how you're doing with 110. Every morning I wake up and I see you in a different city. So, clearly, you've been going back and forth and traversing the whole country. How's the reception been? What's working? What's resonating? Tell us a little bit about where things are with 110.
Yeah, well, first, let me say thank you, Kamal, to you and to Eightfold for your incredible partnership with OneTen. We obviously couldn't make this journey without you all. And the journey's going well. It's still early, right? I just celebrated my 1 year anniversary on the 1st of March. In 1 year's time, though, we've got 70 companies who have joined the coalition. We have over 100 organizations that are talent development organizations that are in the business of equipping talent for in-demand jobs. And from March to December of last year, these companies hired and promoted 25,000 Black talent who don't yet have four-year degrees into family-sustaining jobs and careers. That's what this effort is all about. What coalesces the companies, the talent development organizations, and ultimately organizations who are also providing childcare and transportation, what we call the wraparound supports. What coalesces all of us is the ambition to hire and promote 1 million Black talent into family-sustaining careers and jobs over the next 10 years, 1 million Black talent who don't yet have four-year degrees. It's all about the skills-first hiring journey that we want the companies to be on and that we humbly want the country to be on. And I've been encouraged by the continued faithfulness of the partners that we have in this coalition to pursuing this mission at this time. You see me all over the country because we are pursuing talent, pursuing companies, and pursuing talent developers who have to produce, right? Who have to work in Boston, in LA, Chicago, in Miami, in beautiful New Orleans. I'll say that for Donna, in Milwaukee and Houston. And so this is a countrywide effort. But I'm excited about it. We've got a journey ahead of us, but the early returns are both encouraging and exciting, and we look forward to continuing to do the work.
Donna, we had dinner, I think, last summer in DC when you both were comparing notes and the tactics. What do you think of Maurice's progress so far?
Well, first of all, let me thank you and Eightfold for the tremendous work that you're doing all across the country and filling up all of these important gaps that we see in our society. Just recently in the state of Maryland, I was so excited to see that the governor has finally opened up the door of state employment to people without four-year degrees. This is something I do believe that Maurice and OneTen and others have been able to get governors and mayors and public officials all across the country to ensure that without a four-year degree, you can find the job, that you can find more opportunities. So Maurice, that is a result of your work, of being in Raleigh-Durham, of being able to reach out to mayors and governors across the country, because the message has gone out. if you really want to increase your labor force, if you want to bring people back into their offices, then it's important that we identify and put in the pipeline so many talented individuals who are ready to take the next step up. So I'm excited about this program. I said to Maurice when we first sat down, I said, how are you going to get across the country? How are you going to explain this program? And you have done a phenomenal job just by being visible, by bringing people into the process, including city officials, statewide officials, because they're eager to partner with OneTen to improve the opportunities for so many of our fellow citizens.
Maurice, when you visited our office a couple of months ago, one stat that stood out to me was, while we are all focused on the first million Black Americans without a 4-year college degree that we can help find family sustaining jobs, but there are 70 million in US who don't have a 4-year college degree. So the problem that you're solving is actually much, much bigger. And the hearts and minds that you're starting to change will actually have a massive impact. So how's the reception being with these 70 of the largest employers who are now on the platform, part of the coalition, to actually rethink their job descriptions? So how's that being received and what needs to happen there?
So, we discovered that if you look at Black talent in the workplace today, ages 25 and above, 76% of us do not yet have 4-year degrees. However, you need to go forward and look at other demographic cohorts as well. That number turns out to be about 83% for Latinx talent, ages 25 and above in the workplace who don't have 4-year degrees. It's also 66% of all white talent in the workplace, ages 25 and above, who do not yet have 4-year degrees. And then across all demographics, Kamal, as you were saying, 66% of the US workforce, ages 25 and above, don't yet have a 4-year degree. This 4-year degree issue is a systemic issue that, yes, has a disproportionate impact on Black talent and other talent of color, but it actually impacts all talent in the country. And we are leaving talent on the sideline as a result of this systemic barrier. And so our ambition here is to solve this issue with Black talent and positively impact all of the talent cohorts that we have working and that we're leaving on the sideline. With respect to the companies, one of their big jobs, one of their big commitments when they join OneTen is in fact to re-credential, to remove the 4-year degree where it's not related to the skills needed to do the job and move to a skills-first approach to hiring. We put an ambitious spot on the wall. We said that what we wanted to do over the course of this OneTen journey was to ensure that with respect to all family sustaining jobs of our coalition members, that at least 50% of them did not require a 4-year degree as a point of entry. Now, we've got some ways to go on that. And we've got a variation across the spectrum when you look at the companies. Some of the companies already are over that 50%. Some of the companies are under that 50%. But we are pursuing that as our ambition with respect to the family sustaining jobs that represent the coalition members, and people are working hard on it and making great progress, and there's still a lot of work to be done.
This brings me to a question I think that's very important. You are reaching out to public officials, you're reaching out to the private sector, as well as the public sector. How do we upskill and train and hire more than 1 million Black Americans to close this gap and to ensure that they have a pipeline that they are able to access in order to get these good paying, sustainable jobs?
Yeah, so a lot of this, Donna, is about making sure that we are multiplying the channels through which we're sourcing the talent, right? One of the things that we're trying to do is to make sure that folks are utilizing the Urban League, folks are partnering with the Goodwills, folks are aware of the tech boot camps, folks are partnering with their community colleges, and people are really tapping into the incredible talent that are transitioning out of our military every year, right? We have the talent. We have to make sure that people are really increasing the channels that they're utilizing to actually bring this talent, to become aware of this talent. And that's a big piece of what the OneTen Journey is about. That's why we got 105 in growing talent development organizations. They're all channels for this talent. The other piece, and Don, I'd love to hear your advice on this. We are trying to go directly to Black communities all across the country to make sure they're aware of this opportunity and that, frankly, they're leaning into this opportunity and they are seeing this as something that they're ready for. And that is a big piece of the journey too, making sure that our folks raise their hands and say, yeah, I'm interested in that. What do I need to do to get on that pathway? Given your work in communities all across the country over the years that you've been doing, I welcome your advice on how we make sure that the Black communities across the country see the magnitude of this opportunity and go for it.
Well, you know, I think you've already developed a roadmap by sitting down with mayors. You sat down with the newly elected mayor of Durham, North Carolina. I mean, yes. What a great opportunity for her to announce as her initiative, her first major initiative, it was that she was going to increase the number of jobs and opportunities available to people in her community, the Durham community, so that they can get back into the workforce. We saw over 47 million Americans quit their jobs during this pandemic. And we know that we are faced with a labor shortage. So what is OneTen saying to not just mayors across the country and city managers, but what are they saying directly to the people who make these big decisions, the HR leaders, the human resources, and others who are looking for talent right now?
So there are 10 to 11 million unfilled jobs across our country today, depending on which source you use to quantify that. And you know what I say to our mayors and to our companies and to our public policy makers is we also right now have 11 million Black talent who are underemployed or unemployed. So we're leaving talent on the sideline right now. And you know, our message is to all of them, let's make sure we invest in sourcing that talent and equipping that talent for these jobs. And the other thing is, if you look at what we looked, Donna, last year, and we looked at about 50 of the companies, and this was in April or May of last year, and we discovered that if you just looked at 50 of the companies, so we know this number is low, we discovered that they already had within their walls over 850,000 Black folks working in them at that time. 65% of them, by the way, were in frontline jobs. And so the other sort of real big component and opportunity that we've been talking to local folks about and folks around the country is the opportunity we have to invest in the continued upskilling and reskilling and new skilling of that talent that we already have at work, that we already know, and that we need to make sure we create opportunities for them to advance themselves and further advance our enterprises. And so the OneTen piece is, yes, about hiring, but it's also about advancement and promotion. And I believe that the advancement and promotion opportunity that we have is just as big, if not bigger, than the new hiring, but we have to invest in the continued skilling and upskilling of that talent.
You know, most Americans don't understand when we talk about we want to create more opportunities for Black Americans and others, they don't understand the racial wealth gap. Why is it important that we tackle this issue as we broaden the pipeline to include more people with skills, but without that 4-year degree?
So if you look at our country today and you look at the wealth gap, what you'll find is that there's about a 10 times difference between the wealth of a white family in our country and the wealth of a Black family. And that number, and that's across the country in the aggregate, that number needs to be disaggregated. And so I'll give you an example. In Boston, in 2015 or 2016, I believe it was, the Boston Federal Reserve Bank did an analysis, and they discovered that the median family wealth of a white family in the Boston area was around $247,000. They also discovered that the median family wealth of a Black family in the Boston area was $8. No zeros, $8. That kind of wealth disparity correlates with health disparities, life expectancy disparities, opportunity disparities, education disparities. It, in fact, not only does it not help us to become a more perfect union, it actually renders the union asunder, or at least creates fragility in it. This work is important for individuals and families and communities, but it's important for the American democratic experiment. And the way that you get at this disparity, this racial wealth gap, well, let me put it another way. You cannot get at it successfully unless access to quality jobs and training are parts of it. And that's really the context within which OneTen does its work. It's within that incredible racial wealth gap context that our country has experienced for a long time, that is one of the greatest risks to our democracy that exists right now.
On a personal note, my dad had 2 years of college at Grambling University, and then he was drafted into the military. He returned home to Louisiana and couldn't find work. Of course, this was in the late 1950s, early 1960s. He did end up with a construction job. Later, he ended up working at the airport, and eventually he landed a job, and I say a good paying job because he was a custodian engineer, better known as a janitor, but he put 8 out of 9 of his kids through 2 and four-year institutions, but he stressed the importance of an education. And while he was not able to fulfill his goal, he was able to help all of his children. And so again, going back to this skill gap, my father had so many great talents. I mean, he could fix everything. He was an electrician, he was a carpenter, he was a plumber. In many ways, he was an engineer. He did all the technical work at the school, but he had no great opportunity to advance himself in his lifetime. My mother, similar, she had 2 years of college. And of course, when my dad returned, they started their family, and she was never able to go back into the workforce. She majored in sociology. Her minor was in education. Again, without a four-year degree, she was unable to follow her career path as a teacher. So this is OneTen provides families with opportunities to get back into the path, their career path, their path of sustainability. And you mentioned earlier about reaching out and making sure that more people had access to this program. I want to know, what role do you envision the federal government? We do have an administration that cares about job creation. They want to, fix the supply chain. They want to fix the industrial, but President Biden wants to fix everything. He's investing long term. So what can the federal government do to help alleviate not just the chronic shortages we face, but also help in this initiative to broaden the access to people who might not have the opportunity to get these skills, especially our nation's veterans?
Let me give you a concrete example. Right now, making its way through Congress is a proposal for Pell Grants to be usable for short-term education stints, for short-term programs. And that is one of the things that would be very helpful in assisting folks who are trying to get skilled and upskilled and reskilled, for them to have access to Pell Grants to pay for short-term skilling, to pay for that 8-week boot camp, to pay for that license or certification is huge. And so the federal government can make assistance to students for short-term courses and boot camps something that's much more widely available than it is now. And so I encourage this expansion of the Pell Grants. Now, I will say this while I got a chance. Right now, the expansion of the Pell Grant for these short-term courses excludes online training, online courses, online education. That really, from a public policy standpoint, is not prudent. We have a lot of online short-term courses by our community colleges, by nonprofits, by for-profits that are real high quality and that can help talent get the skills they need to be competitive for these in-demand jobs. We need to make sure that Congress understands that and makes the Pell Grant applicable and available for those. There are other
problem with
go ahead.
Online education. I mean, I've spent 3 semesters from the spring of 2020 when the pandemic first occurred until this past semester, where I started off my classes, both undergraduate, of course, undergraduate courses at both Howard University and Georgetown. I did it virtually. Then we went to a hybrid setting, and then we finally went back into in person. And ultimately, on one campus, we were hybrid. The other campus, we had to go back virtually. So what is the problem with online education and training? We've been doing that now for the last 2 years.
So I know there's this risk that Congress believes they're addressing of for-profit online education offerings not serving well the people that we're talking about. I understand that, but they're throwing, as we say in the South, Donna, the baby and the bathwater out, right? They need to focus on quality outcomes, irrespective of the medium through which the learning is delivered, if you will. And they definitely need to your point, they definitely need to make sure they allow for the online training of folks. You're doing it, it's only going to grow. And for us to cut that off, and you've got workers who they are working 8 and 10-hour days. They need to be able to come home and do their online learning at their pace, at their hour, when they can do it. And when you exclude that, you will be excluding a lot of the folks, Black and brown folks, folks living in rural areas, folks living in low wealth areas that I don't think they intend to exclude. So my hope is this gets corrected. But the fundamental point of making Pell Grants available for short-term offerings, for short-term certifications and licenses and courses, that's a big piece of what the federal government could do. Let me tell you one other area that I'm hopeful that the federal government will really accelerate and increase its investment in: apprenticeships.
Yes.
I am amazed that in 2022, that the US is underutilizing apprenticeships. You can look at Canada and Europe, they're using apprenticeships to teach and to train, to learn and earn for talent at the rates of 10 times more than we are. This is a real opportunity that needs the federal government to accelerate. And my hope is through policy and through investment, we can accelerate the utilization of apprenticeships across industries, across job functions, as a way in which we source talent and a way in which we develop talent. I think we've got a huge opportunity there. And I don't think we'll do it at scale. We won't maximize our opportunity unless the federal government is a big part of the picture.
I totally agree with you. And I will follow up on that Pell Grant, the legislation that you referred to, because I think it's important that Congress not throw the baby and the bath water out. And the few minutes we have left, and before we bring Kamal back, what are some of the milestones for this year, 2022? What are you working on, and how can we continue to make progress on bringing more people into this pipeline?
Yeah. So this OneTen Journey is a team sport. And so what we're working on is scaling. We need more companies who are willing to make the 10-year commitment here. We need more organizations who can train people for different jobs. So we've got a lot of trainers, for example, who focus on IT jobs. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of IT jobs out there, but there are over 600,000 unfilled quality manufacturing jobs out there as well. And we need more organizations to train people, to help people get the skills that they need. We obviously need to make sure that we have more and more Black talent who are going through the journey that is OneTen. And then we really need more people, both individuals and organizations, to help us bring to the table coaches, mentors, transportation, financial literacy, childcare. So it's about what we do. Our goal this year is to take that framework, that 25,000 last year, and 4 and 5X it this year. It's about scaling, and that's a team sport.
And Kamal, how can the platform help navigate this success over the next 2 years?
I think there are a couple of elements And Maurice talked about the upskilling part a fair bit because one is the barrier of the 4-year college degree. So if you put that aside, the next step is you do need to have the relevant skills and expertise to be effective, right? That's how you will thrive in the new environment. And that's where we can provide with our platform the ability to do that with transparency because we know the adjacency of skills. We know what can be learned in what time frame. So we can take whatever you have done in the past and then layer, okay, here's the opportunity, here's the learning path, and here's the career path for you to actually be a really good fit for all these jobs, like 70 of the employers. They are actually opening the doors that, yeah, we welcome this opportunity. So we're now looking to provide that same transparent experience to the individual. So I think a lot of the work with Maurice's team has been around providing that experience, actually not just on the laptop, but also soon on their phones, so that all of that is in the palm of their hands. And it becomes more a conversation around empowerment than necessarily having to rely on others for too much longer. And I think the thing that's changing is because the start is always slow, but then you don't realize how much it's starting to resonate. And I think this whole upskilling thing is what I would actually ask you help on as well, because you have massive access, right? How to turn this thing as the thing that we need to solve for the country, because that just started the job starts to then narrow the wealth gap, then narrows for the next generation, because that's what both of you have shared over the last couple of years, that it was that one opportunity that's a few years later suddenly the family was in a different place. So I think it's just getting the more participation and more commitment from people who are in a position to actually make a difference.
I totally agree. Well, I want to thank both of you for joining us in this important conversation. And I guess I have to end on this note. Maurice, where can you give us an idea of the next town hall meeting or the next in-person meeting where we can get more information out to the general public about your exciting program and developments?
We got a few coming up. We have one in Philly that we're doing this month. In fact, it is the 13th, which is Friday the 13th. I just realized that. We've got one coming up in the Twin Cities area this summer, and we've got one coming up in Atlanta as well. And so we'll make sure that we get these opportunities out there so folks can see and hear and give us feedback. But our goal is to be all over the country with town halls and with other community forums, and we plan to do it aggressively, and hope that folks will join us and give us feedback, and also jump into this journey. We need more laborers in the vineyard, no question about it.
Donna, stay tuned for his announcement in June.
Yes, indeed.
Well, this is great. This is exciting. This is an opportunity to bring more people from what I always refer to the outskirts of hope back into the circle of opportunity. You have created an exciting program, and Kamal, you have a wonderful platform for us to meet the needs of a 21st century America. So I am so honored to have been a part of this conversation. I look forward to being involved in one of those town hall or in-person meetings, especially over the next few months as we galvanize, mobilize, and identify more people who want to upskill and to be able to broaden their level of expertise so that they can capture these 21st century jobs. Once again, I want to thank Eightfold for your tremendous leadership, and Maurice with OneTen for providing this incredible opportunity and platform for so many Americans to realize their dreams.